Long before this kind of strobe, or this kind of flash, or even this kind of flash, there were these. Flashcubes were how most consumer cameras lit up the night back in the day. I broke some out at a recent event and thought it might be fun to talk about. When I was a kid, the kind of camera my parents had was one of these. Yes, this is the old family camera. The snapshots we took in our backyard or on family drives came out just fine for what they were. When you wanted to take pictures inside, though, much like photography today, you would have to add some kind of lighting, otherwise your image would be pretty underexposed. This wasn't something I put any thought into back then, and my parents probably didn't either. Outside you didn't need a flash, and inside you did. That was pretty much the guideline. Flashcubes started being produced around 1966 and were replaced by magic cubes in the late 70s. They did the same thing, but had some differences in how they worked and weren't interchangeable. Electronic flash killed off the technology altogether in the late 80s, early 90s, so no, you can't buy these anymore. You can find them at tag sales and at flea markets, and of course on eBay if you're looking for a source to find some. Thankfully, they're pretty cheap because there aren't a whole lot of people looking for them. Before cameras with built-in flashes became a thing, think the kind of disposable camera you've seen on the tables at weddings in years past. We use these little guys for lighting. Okay, not on any modern camera, but on older cameras like this one, or the one I recently used, this Rollei A110. If you want to use them at night or inside, you need the cube. Now, this one uses 126 film, which is no longer made, but this one uses 110 film. This format was really popular in the 1970s because of how easy it was to use. The film is inside the cartridge, so you just drop it in the camera, close it up, and you're on your way. The 110 format fell out of favor in the 80s because with the negative being so small and the resulting photographs being kind of grainy, and with better and easier to use 35mm cameras becoming available at friendlier prices, consumer photography moved in that direction. A company called Lomography resurrected the format in 2011. They're now the sole manufacturer of 110 film, and you can get it from their website, a link for which I'll post below. There are a lot of 110 cameras taking up space in parents' and grandparents' closets or the back of a junk drawer somewhere, and going retro has always been a thing. So sensing a market, Lomography brought it back. They actually started making new 110 cameras of their own recently. I don't have one because this little guy does everything I need, so I didn't feel like I needed to pick up one of the newer Lomomatic 110s, though they are getting good reviews. And they use electronic flash rather than Flashcube, so that's a plus if you're interested in the format. There are a lot of 110 cameras out in the world if you're looking for something vintage. Like Flashcubes, you can find them at tag sales and at flea markets and on eBay, though if I were interested in getting a new one, I would go with the new Lomomatic 110. I got this one before those became available, and being a fan of all things Rollei, when I wanted to play around with 110 and saw Rollei had made one, that's the one I had to have. This Rollei A110 was produced in 1975, and it's so tiny. So, Flashcubes. For these cameras, you would pop the cube onto the top and you were ready to go. When you would take a picture, the bulb would explode inside the cube, illuminating everything in front of it. When you advance the film to the next frame, the cube on top would rotate 90 degrees, and you would repeat that 4 times until the cube was used up. Then you would throw it away. I agree that's wasteful, but it was what it was. All that is prelude to a local wedding vendor holiday party I attended this week. Everyone takes pictures with their phones at these things, and I'm typically no exception. You're hanging out with your friends and you see people you haven't seen in a while, especially at the end of wedding season when everyone is burnt out, so you want to record a little bit of the experience. From time to time, I'll break out something different to have fun and play around with, and that's what I did here. Armed with a Rollei A110 and several boxes of Flashcubes, I thought it would be fun to photograph my friends. Now, there are 24 exposures on these 110 cartridges, and with each Flashcube providing 4 flashes, that's 6 cubes I would need for one cartridge, so if you're planning on playing with this yourself, I recommend you stock up. Do people see a setup like this every day? They do not, so it was kind of a conversation piece, especially among the other photographers there. Fun fact, I am Flashcubes years old. There were more than a few people there who not only hadn't experienced film photography, but things like Flashcubes they might have only seen in a movie, if at all. It was brand new to more than a couple of people there, and I was more than happy to show them and let them hold the cube. Now, there's something important to note about using Flashcubes. They are bright. They are very bright. If you're in an environment and your pupils have dilated to adjust to the ambient lighting, one of these exploding in your face is going to make you see spots. I made sure to warn everyone before I took their picture that it was going to get very bright, and no one was disappointed. Do I want to cause people discomfort? No, of course not. Was this how it was done back in the day? Pretty much. I jokingly told people not to drive for about 5 minutes afterwards, and one person laughed and said they might have a sunburn in the morning. I mean, it's not like it's Oppenheimer bright, but someone took my picture with it, and I can confirm you do see spots for a bit afterward. I then had to wait for a couple of minutes for each cube to cool down after it was used up before tossing it. They put on a fair amount of heat in the instant they're fired, and I could feel it in a finger that got too close when I set it off, but it wasn't to burn your skin hot. Also, starting a fire in the trash would be a bad look, so a word to the wise, let them cool off. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get into this kind of thing relative to what modern cameras and other photographic equipment costs. Would I use this kind of setup at a wedding? Probably not, unless I wanted to challenge myself and see what I could come up with. But it might be fun to add to a portrait session or spend some time with just walking around in the day-to-day. There are filters and plugins and whatnot that emulate the look this camera and flash produced, but to me it's just not the same. To me, it's about the process of making these images as well as the final result. For me, the point of all of this is just to have fun. Learning about the technology that came before what I'm using now to make my living is interesting. Learning how to use it is just fun. I understand it's not for everyone, but if you find yourself looking for a photographic challenge, this would be one way to go. Have you used Flashcubes and older cameras to make photographs? If so, I'd love to hear from you. There's so much that came before me and what I'm doing now that I'm interested in, so if you have something to share, please do in the comments. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your spending a few minutes with me. If you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to see more videos like this, check out this other one I made for you. This is Ask a Wedding Photographer. I'm Seth K, and I'm here to help. Flashcubes were how most consumer cameras lit up the night back in the day. I broke some out for a recent event and thought it might be fun to talk about.